Are you surprised? Are you surprised by this because the basketball world is?
Okay, so I'll do it this way. I did schedule a vacation for Memorial Day weekend that I just had to cancel.
Wow.
Yes.
So I was willing to go through the first two rounds pretty much without any real reservation. But my buddy has a house in East Hampton, New York, Memorial Day weekend. I was like, yeah, man, that's going to be fun. We'll talk and reminisce. I mean, and here's the thing. I made those plans when the team was teetering around, play-in areas. And so you're just projecting what is the standard sometimes. And what we've all come to learn is there is no standard with this team. This team is doing everything that most of us would not begin to think would be reasonable from a transition from playoffs from the regular season to the playoffs, because there's no history for it. I think the Knicks folks had some people trying to jam in 1999 as similar to this season when they were the eighth seed that, obviously went to the finals. They played 50 games that year. 50 with a lockout shortened season. It doesn't compare to what this team just, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back all season long. And then you play your best basketball at the time that you're supposed to. And now that's the real plan. There's been a lot of chitter chatter, and a lot of it from folks up in Boston. So I'm so glad we get to go there and see how they deal with it. Is that the Heat didn't take the regular season seriously. And the misnomer on that is, first of all, I don't want to think, I don't want to process, I don't want to do any homework. That anyone who utters that's the first thing that comes to my mind about that particular individual. Because what you notice first, and we've talked about this before on the program, no team had more missed games due to injury. No one. That's number one on the list. Number two, what was happening during that time, if you listen to Spo, he was telling you what was happening during a time of peril, and it's getting 7 through 10 on the roster opportunities, getting them confident, getting them to understand what their role could possibly be at the most important moments. 3 of you have been around long enough that you fully know Eric Spoelstra's not played 10 players in the playoffs ever. He's not just playing 10, he's playing 5 dudes off the bench at the same time because he has the luxury of Kyle Lowry with that group. And then the pieces that have been put in place, or the pieces, with the addition of Zeller, the reemergence of the splashing of Duncan, the confidence that Highsmith has developed, particularly as a defender. And obviously we've watched Caleb Martin explode over the last couple of years right in front of our eyes. And so everything is unlike anything else we've ever seen, and that's what we should expect. So am I surprised? I don't know if I'm surprised anymore. I just love that this team is dominant at home and doing enough on the road, create enough havoc to, for the third time in 40 years, the Celtics and Heat are meeting in the Eastern Conference Finals, creating a new chapter of rivalry in that space, which is, when you work for Pat Riley and you start talking to him about the Celtics, man, it goes all the way back to his playing days, let alone his coaching days. And so we all feel it in the organization. I grew up a Showtime Lakers fan. So that stuff, man, every time I'm in that building, I'm hot. So it's going to be something else over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we've probably been watching the best version of playoff Jimmy in his career to this point. And so, Jax, you spend a lot more time around Jimmy than the rest of us do. What's it been like watching his incredible run to this point? And he's also had to deal with some adversity through the ankle. So do you think he's going to be even healthier by the time they tip off on Wednesday night?
Donald, you know what happens with time, man. You get time, you get an opportunity to heal, you get a little more spring in your step. Ankles are funky. They can kind of bounce back or they can kind of linger, right? That high mid sprain's rough to low sprain. I don't even know. Is there a middle sprain that's better than the rest?
Crowder would know.
For him, for him, it's just simple. Like, that's the thing I really appreciate about Jimmy. Jimmy's got no time for us, by the way. Got no time. We don't want to be bothered with being on that microphone, taking our queries. And he's unique that way among the superstars that have walked through the hallways at 601 Biscayne. He keeps everything super simple, even though the complexity of his game is right and apparent, right in front of your eyes, right? Like he just has a real nuanced way of getting to the spots where he needs to get to be most effective in this year. Being his most efficient season, you can see that he's mastered it. Just mid-post, low post, to the handy ones. If that gets taken away, he'll figure out how to make the other hand work. Firing off threes, those little flat-lining threes that rip the net, and then obviously getting to the line and more than most in converting, more than not. But, man, I love it when he just talks to us like we're fifth graders learning basketball. You have to guard somebody, and you just need to win. He doesn't talk about scoring, he doesn't talk about rebounding. Every now and then he talks about setting up the guys, and he's had a couple 10 assist games in the postseason. But it's just refreshing that it's not, he's not there trying to show us how smart he is, that he's just determined. And that's refreshing.
And Jax, with Jimmy, because when they lost game 5 and Jimmy only scored 19, and his stat line was dumb. I think it was 19, 10, and 9 or something. Like, it was an amazing game. Mm-hmm. But we're used to seeing 56, 42-point Jimmy. And I was like, that's what we need out of Jimmy to win. If we're really going to win, Jimmy has to go, 35, 40 plus. Yeah. And him scoring 24 in game 6 and still winning, that encouraged me to kind of change my mind about that. Do you see Jimmy going on to 50-point games this series coming up? Or could they really set it up where Jimmy's a 24, 28 guy and they're winning these games?
Jimmy just reads it, Channing. That's what he does. He takes a look at what is this defense trying to do. And it may take a game or two or a quarter or two where it's, okay, if you're going to let me just get busy, then I'm going to get way busy. Like, you're not going to just let me have 35. I'm going to go get 40. I'm going to get 50. That's what may be necessary. If you guys are going to clamp down on Gabe or try to take Max away or give Bam a hard time, I think that's when he cranks that stuff up. If he recognizes that if they can keep the ball moving and everybody's somewhere around 15 to 12 points, maybe somebody gets 20 or 18, that he can just, and there's 5 or 6 guys doing that, I think that's what he prefers. I think he prefers an arsenal where an opposing team cannot figure out where it's coming from. And Boston has very much that same ability because they have guys who can put the ball in the basket, 1 through 7, 8 that you can count on. And that's why this series is going to be amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7 games again. And I'm not getting to the Hamptons. That's just how that's going to go.
I agree with that, by the way, that it's probably going to be a 7-game type of series. And, I think that based on what we saw yesterday, Jax, we know who a big problem could be, and that's Jason Tatum, who had those historic 51 points in that game 7. Not that we haven't seen this matchup before, but how do you expect the Heat to approach him defensively in this series?
I think you got to keep him on the edges. He can't have everything. And so if I'm guessing, and I'm happy to be wrong, you treat him like Giannis. Like, just, you can't have the paint. You may not have it. You are an exceptional player. I believe he told us humbly. I believe this quote was humbly, I'm one of the greatest players in the world. Like, how does that sentence even work? How does that just say he's saying you're the greatest? Like, we're one of the greatest. Anyway, and he is, right? Like, Jason Tatum is one of the great scorers in this game. And so I would only allow him the threes. And if he's going to make them, then good. But you will not have easy buckets. You will not have dunks. There will be no layups. There will be no mid-range, none of that. You can't have it. And the problem is you got to treat Jaylen Brown the same way. Right? For the most part, Smart's going to be on the edges and smart cuts. Horford's going to start, obviously, trying to knock down threes and pull Bam out of the mix. But now there's Love, right? So Bam can get off on somebody else. And if it's going to be Williams, man, oh man, now you got Bam roving in the paint. I mean, that's these neat little additions and unexpected dynamics for this team are going to make this a wonderful series. That's chess of the highest level. And give Coach Mazzulla a big round of applause, man. All he could do was fail. That's all that was available other than meeting the moment. And he got this team in his first year right back where Udoka had them last year, and one step away from where they want to be, which is battling for the title again. But, yeah, if you're starting with – and you have to, right? You have to start with Tatum. You tell them, okay, bud, you better trust your teammates because you can't have any of this easy stuff ever. And the one thing that I don't feel like was at play enough in that series last year, and I think that it probably has to be a must now, particularly with Robert Williams in the mix. This needs to be physical. Like, people need to get, up off the floor. I'm not nothing dirty, nothing nasty, but there needs to be some hurt feelings and some ice baths after each of these games.
And Jax, my point too, we were talking about earlier, to Series 1, Brook Lopez, I would say, my opinion, let me know if I'm wrong, he got Bam off of his game, especially offensively. And then last game, in and out with the Robinson and Randall, who did get off. Like, it seemed like Bam was uncomfortable. This Boston team doesn't have a dominant big. They have guys that aren't really, they're really not, scary. So shouldn't this be Bam's series to get off where he can help protect the paint, but also be able to get down on offense and show out where he doesn't have one of those big dudes to wrestle with defensively?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give Bam a little more credit than you will, or just did, only because, first of all, we asked Bam to do so much. Yeah. Secondly, there were games that were signature to him, maybe not as sweeping as Jimmy in the first series. And then, like I said, in the wins in the second series, it was very much, I think, a team-oriented thing, of which Bam was at the highest level in each of those games, in the sense of let's have some stat-stuffing performances. It doesn't need to be 30 points here or 20 rebounds there. Let's do something of the double-double variety across the board and get some block shots. And then defensively, Bam was exquisite. Like exquisite, all except I'll give that. I think it was one really explosive performance by Lopez. But Bam also has a lot of other responsibilities, not just the five. And so I'm not going to make any excuses for the man. He wouldn't take any. But I don't think he's had to be like eye-popping explosive. To your point about what's available in this series, Bam's not going to see some doubles. He's going to see some drop, and he just needs to knock the shot down. He needs to see any drop coverage as utter disrespect and not look for that next pass. There should the beginning of each game, how are they approaching Bam? Do they want Bam off the ball once he gets into the painted area, or are they daring Bam to shoot? And if they're daring him to shoot the way he's been shooting, when he just gathers and goes, I'm not talking about when he goes and kind of pump, jab, go. I'm talking about when he catches and goes. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Solana, do we have the just catch and go stat? I'm going to say it's 80% shooting on catch and go.
Sounds good to me.
It's not a real stat, but I'm sure somebody can find it.
Yeah, I'll text Randy and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, there you go. To Randy Webb on the Bam, no jab step, no handoff, no look around, just the catch and goes, because he's either one step to a throwdown, or he's just in such good rhythm on a gather elbow jumper, a bottom of the circle jumper, and it's just nothing but net when he's in rhythm. And I would just beat that till they change that, and then adjust from there.
Jax, I know Spo doesn't care about this because he's been adamant he doesn't care about it. But both coaches that he's met and beaten now in these playoffs have more Coach of the Year awards than he does. And I think, outside of South Florida, on the national perspective or the narrative nationally was that Spo always had a superstar to compete with, a.k.a. he had LeBron James, which won him 2 titles, right? That was always kind of the narrative, I think, outside of South Florida from the casual fan. But has there been this resurgence now, especially outside of Miami, the appreciation for Coach Spo, just because taking an 8 seed to the conference finals and taking out the number 1 regular season team in the NBA, I mean, that's not an easy task. And now he's done it 3 times in 4 years without LeBron James. So is Spo do you think finally starting to get that recognition that he truly does deserve?
He's always gotten it where it matters, Alejandro. And that's people who eat and sleep this stuff and drink this stuff. Like, for anybody that's just a hoop head and is in it, like, tracks after timeout possessions. Like, how many times the Heat maybe not get a bucket, but get a great look because of the design that he puts together, or the leadership and the development of getting these players, as we've seen so many times, out of the rough and into NBA careers. To the management of personalities now, that he does probably more than X and O's, that he's mastered as well. It's for people who are in this, like, up to their neck, and I think that's all he really cares about is, his peers and those people who do this all the time. We've all known that, right? Like, and he knows it from that community. I think what's happening from those national voices or outside fan bases that swing by on occasion is that you just keep getting reminded, oh, damn, is this his 15th year? Oh, damn, does he have 100 playoff wins? Oh, damn, he still won 60% of his playoff games on top of regular season games. Last year, voted one of the top 15 head coaches in the history of the league. Like, what else? I mean, look around. Like, what else is there? What else is there than winning? And that's all that happens. And simply because this season was not a 50-win season or a 55-win season, what is happening now, and he even noted this the other day, I think you had this on Preheat the other day, is that he has even grown with greater appreciation of the rigors of the regular season because of a year like this, because you learn more about yourself and what your team is capable of doing than when you have all your pieces and you're just rolling along, beating everybody in the face, which, by the way, is also enjoyable. Let's not get silly and think that it's not fun just marching around winning 60 games every year. But I think he finds a joy and an appreciation in the most stressful moments. One, because it makes you feel alive. Two, because of this unique profession we are all in. And I think all of us can forget how awesome it is to do what we do. If it's hosting shows, if it's calling games, we all get drawn into the space that we always wanted to be in, right? And if we go back to our 18-year-old selves and report to those individuals what we're doing now, that their head would explode. And so he does a really good job of not being jaded, not being defeated, and reminding all of us that we should have that type of grace for all of ourselves. It's amazing to watch. Spo's about 18 months older than me, but I've been a father for much longer. And I find myself using Spoisms, talking to my grown children who now know everything Spo says. So they're like, yo, come on now. Come on. You ain't gonna huddle us, Dad. Like, come on now. Come up with your own stuff. So, but the leadership quality, the elevation quality, the ability to get people to focus on what matters is his gift, on top of just being even all the time, right? Like, he's never too pissed. He's never, like, over the wall joyful, but has the appropriate line and tenor for everything. So this is the time of year where we invite all of our friends who've been, kind of driving by. They're not really watching their league pass. They're checking out a national game here and there. And now they've been, immersed in this now for over a month, and they can't take their eyes off it. They can't deny it. And now they have to figure out how to explain a historical run. Well, you know what? Sometimes just be quiet and let it happen. It'll explain itself.
I love it. So well said. Jason Jackson, Miami Heat audio experience. You can hear him into the Eastern Conference Finals, hopefully into the NBA Finals. He'll cancel all his trips and all that good stuff. Jax, thank you so much thank you so much. And we will talk to you again soon.
Can't wait, fellas. Appreciate you.